Well, greetings to you. I don't know whether you've seen quite recently something which rather disturbed me, and it's that the recruitment programs for the British Army and the forces in general and officer selection in particular, are going to be taken over by SERCO. Uh, More of that in a minute. I don't know whether you've seen it, but of course the last lot who were running, it was an outsourced agency, Capita I think it was, or somebody, but it doesn't matter. What they were doing basically, and you might have seen some of the adverts, which said, we don't care if you're the unpopular guy in the class, you're the weedy pigeon-chested guy in the class, you're the guy who doesn't like sport or isn't selected for sport, you're a Billy No Mates, and so on and so forth. There's a place for you in the army. Now, let me tell you, although my military service was particularly undistinguished, and I make no claims to the contrary, and if you want to, you can easily look it up. It's a piece of cake, but that's not the point. The point is, I do have a little bit of military experience, undistinguished though it was. Now, the point is, if you want to build an army, that's not the kind of people that you want. You don't want the class Billy No Mates. You want the captain of rugby, the captain of cricket, the captain of football, whatever it happens to be. That's the kind of guy you're looking for. Somebody who takes an interest in physical fitness, is a good team player, gets on with his mates and so on, and generally quite popular. That's the sort of chap that the army needs, and that's the sort of chap the army has been historically, up until the last lot, recruiting. And if you look at the Chinese adverts or the Russian adverts, when they recruit for soldiers, that's exactly what they're saying. They want people who are tough, fit, and hard men so they can make them even better with army training. Now, with officer training, generally speaking, most people don't have natural leadership qualities. They have perhaps a little bit of leadership qualities which could be brought out by leadership training. And that's what Sandhurst and Cranwell and Seldersworth and Dartmouth are actually for. So you have possibly deep-rooted some ability to lead, and they bring it out and they train you. And that's how it works. You might be one of life's very natural leaders, but believe me, they are few and far between. And in the old system, you were selected. It was a 3-day selection. And I went through 3 days of wearing a number. It was number 33. I remember it to this day. Number 33, well, leaping over hoops, jumping through things and so on and so forth. 3 days, well, they looked at you to assess if you had leadership qualities to be an officer. And that they felt that they could make an officer of you at Sandhurst, and the same for the other services. I failed my first selection board. And when I eventually got to Sandhurst, they chucked me out. And I had to go back the following year because they didn't really like me, because they said I was too gobby, which is ridiculous. Or perhaps I am. Anyway, eventually I got through, and it took a bit of doing. But they were very, very careful about who had the Queen's Commission. In those days, it was the Queen's Commission, not the King's Commission. So that is how it used to work. And the last disastrous agency that ran all this selection procedure has now been exposed. But to bring in SERCO makes me very, very uneasy, because we know that SERCO is an extremely shady organisation of which we don't really know very much. We know that they actually control and host, for want of a better word, in hotels across the land, illegal immigrants, men of fighting age, and many of you know this already. They're not really refugees, economic refugees, if you will, illegal immigrants. And this is the problem that we have. We don't know who they are, we don't know their backgrounds, and they are young men. They're all young men of fighting age. And SERCO has control of their bed and breakfast, if you will. So are we going to, as many people have been suspicious about in the past, are we going to recruit these men into the armed forces? Because it's a ready source of turning on the tap for recruitment, which at the moment is very low because nobody wants to be a soldier, and who can blame them? It's not the sort of army life that it used to be. And we don't have a natural foeman, whatever you might be told. The USSR is gone, so the Warsaw Pact has gone, so we don't have any natural enemies, and so we don't really need to recruit, and I think most people understand that. And also, promotion was also always based on meritocracy. So a meritocratic system where if you were good, you got made a corporal, lance corporal, a sergeant, you went up the ranks, and maybe if you were officer selection, you went up through their major and colonel, so on and so forth. And we also know, of course, do we not, that you can't get certainly above the rank of half colonel. It's a political appointment, so you have to believe in all the wokery that goes with it. And most of you know this, especially if you're ex-servicemen or have any association with the services in your family. You know many are leaving because they don't fit a certain quota for promotion, and that is no way to run an army. An army has to be a meritocracy. And they're talking of making the selection procedure based largely on the Air Force selection procedure, the Air Force officer selection procedure, which is just the last one you would choose. The services, whether it's the Air Force, the Marines or anybody else, know what they want in their officer corps. They know what they want in their officer corps. And to pass the Air Force one, I think, which used to be run at Biggin Hill, does not require the same kind of things that the one that Warminster, I think it was, in the old days used to do for the British Army. It's not the same style of leadership, it's a different style of leadership. And of course, it's very much more technical, generally speaking, the Royal Air Force, because officers are either engineers or pilots or navigators. So that's the kind of leadership you're looking for, a slightly technocratic leadership. It's not the same as the Army, or possibly the Navy, but that's not the point. It is for the services themselves to run their selection procedure because they know what they want. And I gather it's been rather degraded of late in any event. And I can't see how it could get any better with SERCO running it. Now, SERCO, this shady organisation running it, are they going to resist the temptation to be able to go straight to the source with young men of fighting age who are actually sitting in there having in their own hotels? Surely they are going to try and recruit them and put them in, and they'll be fast-tracked through the immigration system, and we'll end up with very, very big percentages of our armed services with these people, which I would suggest is not a good thing. I'm sure there'll be one or two good blokes in there, but that's not the way you should be recruiting the British forces. So I'm very concerned. Nobody seems to be talking about it, particularly, or going into any detail. You normally be able to rely on newspapers like the Daily Telegraph for this sort of thing, but I mean, the Daily Telegraph's a lost cause. Newspapers are a lost cause. Legacy media is a lost cause. So nobody's actually going to build up on this. It's very dangerous, and I wish more people would talk about it. Do let me know what you think of your ex-servicemen. We want to build a meritocracy. We want to get back to having, albeit a small army, but the best army in the world and the most effective air force, so on and so forth. And we're not going that direction at the moment. I don't like SERCO, and I'm bloody sure you don't like SERCO. As most of you know, my work is very heavily independently research-based. And I get my information from all over the world. It would help if you press the subscribe button and the little bell next to it, because the more subscribers I have, the more likely it is that international independent research institutes will share their material with me. It's most helpful, and then of course I automatically share it with you. So, surprise, won't cost you anything. Thank you very much.